Breaking tonight, new fallout from last night's GOP primary, which is significantly increasing the chances of a historic fight to claim the mantle of the Republican Party. Good evening and welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. The final tally from Wisconsin's GOP primary shows Senator Ted Cruz winning by double digits, earning 48% of the vote to Donald Trump's 35%. Governor Kasich came in third with 14%. Senator Cruz had been up in the last poll before Wisconsin by 10. He exceeded that margin last night with a 13-point victory over Donald Trump. The delegate count tonight now stands at 743 for Trump, 517 for Cruz, and 143 for Kasich. The magic number to clinch the nomination before the Republican National Convention in July is 1,237. Tonight, the political analysts say it is looking more and more likely that no candidate will reach that threshold, forcing the party to select a nominee at a contested convention. Just about 24 hours ago, Senator Ted Cruz predicted that his victory in Wisconsin would change this race.
Tonight is a turning point. It is a rallying cry. It is a call from the hardworking men and women of Wisconsin to the people of America. And as a result of tonight, as a result of the people of Wisconsin defying the media, defying the pundits, I am more and more convinced that our campaign is going to earn the 1,237 delegates needed to win the Republican nomination.
Joining us tonight on all of the fallout, Ed Goaz, who's a pollster for the Our Principles PAC, which spent over $2 million to defeat Donald Trump in Wisconsin. David Wohl is an attorney and Donald Trump supporter. But we begin tonight with Bill Hemmer, co-host of America's Newsroom, to take us through the remainder of this race to win the nomination. My friend Bill, good to see you.
How are you, Cal? This is not science, okay?
Good.
This is just like a road map. I don't know if it's a paved road or a dirt road, but we're going to find out, okay? We crunched the numbers, all the remaining contests we have, trying to figure out how this could go, all right? Wyoming comes up in about 9 days from now. We think Cruz are going to get most of those. That's a state convention, by the way. And then we move 2 weeks from now in New York. We think based on polling. And we're going to be generous in some areas, and we will not be so generous in other areas to find out how Donald Trump gets to the magic number right now. With Wyoming, he's at 751. New York State, if he gets to 50% across all the districts, he gets all the delegates. The week after that, Rhode Island, we're giving Trump delegates here, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania. So now we're at the end of April, and we are now at 925, 312 delegates shy of the magic number. So in the month of May, Megyn, first Tuesday, Indiana, we think right now that's pretty good for Trump. Pumps him to 967. A week later, it's West Virginia, winner take all. Trump gets that based on our survey to date. That same day, however, Nebraska is winner take all, and we think that, for the moment, will go to Ted Cruz. Now we move third week in May. Oregon's a little bit of a split right now, so we'll divvy it up a little bit here. Same for Washington State. And now you move to the 7th of June with 5 contests remaining. We think on that day, Ted Cruz will get winner-take-all in Montana, same for South Dakota. New Mexico's pretty much of a 50-50 split, so we'll bump Trump's number to 1040, up 10. 2 on the map still. California, as of today, Trump would get 100 delegates, and that same day, New Jersey is winner-take-all, which puts Trump at 1,191. 46 shy of the magic number of 1,237. So, Megyn, now you see the tight road that he must ride with about 150 unbound delegates that we'll get to on another night still in the offing. This will change. We just don't know how.
Fascinating.
Check back in a week.
Bill, great to see you.
You too, Meg.
So in the hours since Fox News called the Wisconsin race for Senator Cruz, the Trump supporters have said this is just a blip on the radar, while those who support the senator call it a turning point in this entire race. Joining me now, Ed Goaz and David Wohl. Good to see you both. So, Ed,
hi, Megyn.
What is the evidence that this is a turning point as opposed to an anomaly? Because in Wisconsin, Ted Cruz had a very popular governor backing him. He had your group spending a lot of money against him. And, you know, it was an electorate that many people say looks very different from the other electorates, and that could be motivated in particular by local talk radio, which isn't as big a factor in some of these other states coming up.
Well, I think, number one, it's a turning point because it probably does increase the likelihood that this is going to go to a contested convention. But I think more importantly, what we've been seeing in the numbers, and we've talked about this before, is that there's been this growing intensity amongst the 1/3 of the Republican voters that are not pro-Trump, in fact, are anti-Trump. And it's grown almost to the point that it matches the intensity and the enthusiasm of the 1/3 that is for Trump. What you saw in Wisconsin was that the 35% he got matched the 35% he's gotten as an average in all these primaries. There's always been a question on how high can his ceiling go. And whether you look at the popular vote, which has him at 38%, or the average of all the primaries, where he's at 35%, he definitely is below that 40% mark, which means that there's a very large component out there that is against him. And as we've talked again before, it's driven very much by married women. But one of the surprises in Wisconsin last night was that there was no gender gap. We saw about 2 weeks ago married men with children at home beginning to become more negative towards Trump. But in our polling, we had women 15 points against Trump, and we had men only 5 points. Last night, they both matched that 13% negative mark.
That's the thing, David, is there was no gender gap because the men also turned on him who are outside of that core group of supporters. So, you know, who knows exactly what that can be attributed to, but the point is, with Trump having several big contests coming up, and his numbers look great in New York, but that state will be proportional, what does he do to bring people above and beyond that 35, 38% into the fold?
Well, Megan, remember, Florida was 46%. New York looks like it's over 50% as it stands right now, and he's about 35 points ahead of Ted Cruz. I mean, this is a red herring, this idea that there's some kind of a ceiling.
Well,
he's going to get 95 delegates in New York.
Just to tell the audience, this is from the Fox News First Note this morning. He had a few grand slams in states where he cleared 40%, Massachusetts, Florida, and Nevada. Right. But taken together, Trump has won 37% of the vote in the primaries held so far.
And, Megan, it is ultimately, as we know, all about the delegates. And I liked Bill's assessment at the Billboard. I would disagree with one thing. He said that California would give Trump 100 delegates. I think it's going to go much higher and much closer to the 172. And if you use that calculation based on what Bill assessed, that's going to get him over the 1237. Megan, I'm telling you right now that this establishment endorsement of Ted Cruz will end up creating a huge problem for him. When you got Jeb Bush, you got Scott Walker, you've got Lindsey Graham endorsing him. I mean, what does that tell voters who think that Ted Cruz is an outsider who's coming in to change things?
That theory suggests that he needs to win without any sort of mainstream Republican support. He's not going to win with just Glenn Beck behind him. Like, whoever the nominee is going to be needs to add more Republicans into the mix.
But why are they supporting him? Why are they supporting Ted Cruz instead of Donald Trump? Because they feel that he's going to be malleable to amend his platform to match the establishment, or they're just going to set him up for an ambush like Donald Trump thinks as a Trojan horse. We get the convention and bring in Paul Ryan, somebody else who's outside of the whole window right now.
The interesting thing about all this establishment, we are talking about where the voters, the everyday voters across the country are voting. And the everyday voters across the country, 62% have not voted for Donald Trump. This is not an establishment conspiracy. This is he's not getting the support. At this point in George W. Bush's campaign, his first campaign, he was getting 65%.
But what do you make of the numbers? A poll just came out today, Ed, that showed Trump at 52% in New York among the Republicans who are going to vote here.
And those same polls, and look, you're getting into what I do every day. Polls change as the time gets closer and people focus. These same polls had Trump at 65% just a few weeks ago. Just like going into Wisconsin, they had him up by 10 points 4 weeks out.
Yeah, but this is after all the controversy that was generated over the past few weeks in the Trump campaign. That's an April 3rd to 5th poll.
You're not talking about 10 points here.
Hold on, let him finish and I'll get you, David.
One of the interesting things is all this talk about the last week is what cost Trump Wisconsin. He was 10 points down before the last week even happened. All it did was add brushstrokes to the negative feelings that many of the voters had out there. It didn't drive it. It didn't settle it. It moved or completed that picture perhaps a little bit more. But this is not something that happened, that he lost Wisconsin because of the establishment and his bad week that he had out there. It's the 2 months of campaigning out there that a lot of voters are turning off to.
Wisconsin's a hyper-local problem for him. It happened because the people have a great passion for their governor, Scott Walker. They're big on the talk radio guys who absolutely hammered Donald Trump. And you know what? He conceded in the end. And he lost rather, by about what the polls were showing, 10 versus 13. He's going to move on. And Megan, as I said before, New York is the big deal. The Big Apple is the big deal. If he takes 95 delegates there, I mean, from that point forward, the task for Ted Cruz will be impossible.
It's tough to get 95, though, given how New York is proportional. So we'll see how that shakes out.
But he's over 50%.
You'd certainly rather have Donald Trump's numbers at this point than anybody else's coming into this state. Great to see you both.
Good seeing you, Megan.